So let me ask you something. What if I told you there's a secret book, a manuscript, so potent, so controversial that it was locked away for over 70 years? A book that supposedly reveals how to master your deepest fears and turn that nagging inner voice into your greatest ally.
Well, that book is real. It's Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, and in it, he shows us how to transform fear from a prison into our most powerful weapon. Welcome to Distilled Library, where we uncork the world's most transformative ideas. Today, we're diving deep into a book that's framed as a direct confession from the devil himself, a roadmap for breaking free from all the forces that hold us back. So get ready to take control of your destiny.
All right, here's our game plan for this Distilled Library deep dive. First, we'll meet the man who dared to interrogate the devil, Napoleon Hill himself. Then, we'll unpack the devil's secrets, how fear works, the profile of what he calls a drifter, and the toolkit you need to become a non-drifter. We'll also touch on some fair warnings, and we'll wrap up with a challenge to put all this into action. Let's get into it.
Now, to really get the sheer audacity of this book, you first have to understand the man who wrote it. See, Napoleon Hill wasn't some guru preaching from an ivory tower. His wisdom was forged right in the heart of the Great Depression, and believe me, it was earned through a relentless, almost unbelievable series of spectacular failures.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It's staggering. In 1908, the legendary industrialist Andrew Carnegie gives him a 20-year mission to decode the formula for success. You'd think his path was set, right? But nope. He gets a great job at a university, and he quits. He becomes president of a candy company and leaves after fighting with his partners. He builds a wildly successful advertising school and just walks away to serve in the war. He even launches a hit magazine, and what does he do? He gives it away. So by 1923, he's hit absolute rock bottom. Broke, aimless, wandering the streets. This wasn't just a string of bad luck. This was a man in a profound crisis.
So you have to ask the question, how does a person pull themselves out of a nosedive that steep? Here he is, the world's #1 student of success, and his own life is a masterclass in failure. Where did the answer come from? Well, it didn't come from his intellect. It came from somewhere much, much deeper.
Hill called it his other self. And no, this isn't just wishful thinking. He described it as this separate, powerful consciousness inside him, a force of pure, unshakable faith that only wakes up when you are at your absolute lowest. You know that quiet, firm voice that cuts through all the noise and panic when logic has totally failed you? That's what he's talking about. For Hill, connecting with this other self was the only way out of the despair that had completely swallowed him whole.
And this just brilliantly proves the very lesson Andrew Carnegie had told him 20 years earlier. Carnegie actually predicted that Hill's greatest discoveries wouldn't come from his wins, but from his losses. Because it's only when we're stripped of everything, our ego, our plans, our pride, that we're finally forced to listen to that deeper intelligence. Hill's breakdown was the exact crisis he needed to finally have his breakthrough.
But discovering this inner power, that was just the beginning. Soon after, Hill partnered with a publisher to expose massive corruption in their town. The backlash was brutal. His partner was assassinated, and Hill got a chilling death threat. Get out of town in 1 hour, or you're leaving in a coffin. He fled and spent over a year in hiding, consumed by a level of fear that utterly paralyzed him. His ambition, his courage, it all just evaporated. He was a prisoner in his own mind.
And it was this terrifying battle with raw fear that led him to write Outwitting the Devil. He framed the whole book as a psychological interrogation, where he forces his own inner devil, the personification of all negativity, to confess its deepest secrets. So let's kick off our Distilled Library analysis with the first central idea, the overwhelming power of fear.
Okay, let's start with the devil's most shocking claim. When Hill asks him what percentage of the world he controls, the answer is a staggering 98%. Just 2% of people, he claims, actively think for themselves and are free from his influence. The rest? He says they're his property, controlled through one primary, devastatingly effective weapon.
And that weapon is fear. Specifically, these 6 fundamental fears. Think of them as the devil's master keys to your mind. He claims he only needs to get one of these hooks into your brain: fear of poverty, of what people think, of sickness, of losing love, of getting old, or of death, and he can unlock the door to all the others. These fears are the levers he pulls to turn that 98% into something he calls a drifter.
And that brings us to the second, and maybe the most important, central idea in this whole book.
the concept of the drifter. This is the state of being the devil works to create in every single one of us. And the question it forces us to ask is a deeply uncomfortable one. Are you letting something else do your thinking for you?
Drifting is the devil's masterpiece. It's the habit of having no central purpose, of being pushed and pulled around by events, by other people's opinions, by your own fears, instead of steering your own ship. A drifter doesn't think, they react. They're like a sponge for all the negativity in their environment. They've basically left the driver's seat of their own mind empty. And according to Hill's devil, he is more than happy to jump in and take the wheel.
Now, this is where it gets brutally clear, and it introduces our third big idea, the absolute necessity of self-awareness and personal responsibility. Just look at this contrast. The drifter has no purpose. The non-drifter has a definite major purpose. The drifter avoids decisions. The non-drifter is decisive. The drifter blames others for everything. The non-drifter accepts full responsibility. The drifter is just full of borrowed opinions. The non-drifter actually thinks for themselves. As you look at this list, be honest with yourself. Which side of this line do your daily habits fall on? It's a really powerful self-assessment tool.
So, the next logical question is, if drifting is the end goal, how does the devil engineer an entire society of drifters? Well, his confession points the finger at some of our most trusted institutions.
And yeah, this is where the book gets really controversial. According to Hill's devil, the whole system is rigged in his favor. He claims that schools often teach kids what to think through memorization instead of how to think for themselves. He says parents, even with the best intentions, pass down their own fears and limitations, telling their children to just adopt their beliefs without question. He even alleges that some religious teachings can use the fear of hell to shut down independent thought. The goal of this whole blueprint, he confesses, is to stamp out self-determination from a very young age, creating a predictable, controllable, drifting population.
Okay, I know that is a bleak picture, but the entire point of Outwitting the Devil isn't to scare you, it's to arm you. And that's a core mission here at Distilled Library, turning these complex ideas into actionable tools you can actually use. So let's pivot to the solution and explore the fourth central idea, the incredible power of decision and persistence.
Becoming a non-drifter isn't an accident, it's a conscious choice, and it's built on specific, powerful habits. First, definiteness of purpose, the polar opposite of drifting. Know exactly what you want. Second, make a definite plan to get there. Third, and this is the real battlefield, you have to master your own mind. You have to stand guard at the door of your thoughts and refuse entry to fear, doubt, and all that negativity. Fourth, reframe failure. It's not a stop sign, it's a lesson. And finally, you have to curate your environment. Surround yourself with people and influences that lift you up. This quote right here is the heart of our fifth and final central idea, transformation through action. You see, a drifter sees failure and just quits. They use it as proof that they can't succeed. But the non-drifter, they see failure and they ask, what's the lesson here? Where's the seed of an equivalent success hidden inside this problem? They get that adversity is just data, valuable intel they can use to fine-tune their plan and come back even stronger. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about mining it for wisdom.
Now, with any powerful philosophy, it's so important to look at the tensions and limitations. Here at Distilled Library, we believe in giving you the full, balanced picture. So, is this a one-size-fits-all solution? And what are the potential traps of thinking this way?
The central tension of the book really is this. Is Napoleon Hill actually interviewing the devil? Or is this just a brilliant psychological metaphor for that battle we all fight against our own inner demons, our fear, our negativity, our self-sabotage? Ultimately, Hill says it doesn't really matter. Whether the devil is a literal being or just a symbol for the negative forces in the universe, the tactics to beat him are exactly the same. Master your own mind. That said, a fair critique is that this philosophy can sometimes feel like it's blaming the victim, by not fully accounting for the very real external barriers many people face. The key is to take its power for personal freedom without ignoring the realities of the world.
Okay, so understanding these concepts is one thing, but living them, that's the whole game. So we're ending this explainer with a call to action. We're not just going to talk about outwitting the devil, we're going to start doing it, right now. This is your 7-day micro-experiment, a challenge from us here at Distilled Library.
It's a simple 3-step challenge. First, identify. I want you to get brutally honest with yourself and write down the single biggest fear or limiting belief that's holding you back. Is it the fear of criticism, fear of failure, the belief that you aren't smart enough? Name your devil. Step 2, confront. This week, take one small, definite action that moves you toward that fear, not away from it. If you fear public speaking, Volunteer to say a few words at a meeting. If you fear rejection, make that one call you've been putting off. It doesn't have to be huge, it just has to be a move. Step 3, share. Come back here and report your results. Distilled Library is the community where we can all explore this transformation together. So the final question is all yours. What devil, what fear, what doubt, what drifting habit will you outwit this week? Here's our comment challenge. Share an experience where you turned fear into motivation. How did this explanation on outwitting the devil maybe change your view on your own barriers? If this sparks something in you, leave a like, subscribe, and share it, because here at Distilled Library, more transformative content is always waiting for you. Thanks for tuning in.